Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're plunging into a real classic, Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. Now this book, it first came out way back in 1937, became this huge sensation almost overnight, and well, it's still a massive bestseller. So our mission today is to really pull out the key ideas, look at where it came from, its core principles, and basically give you a shortcut to understanding how to navigate human interactions more effectively.
Yeah, it really is remarkable, isn't it? A book from nearly a century ago, and it still resonates so strongly. I think its staying power comes down to this fundamental grasp of human nature. It offers, practical wisdom, not just passing trends. So yeah, we'll look at what he taught, but also, maybe more interestingly, why he felt he had to write it, and the surprising amount of research that actually went into it.
Okay, so let's start right there. Where did it all begin? Dale Carnegie. I mean, he was already teaching public speaking back in 1912, right? But he admitted he personally struggled sometimes. He mentioned his own frequent lack of finesse and understanding with people. He actually wished he'd had a book like this 20 years earlier, so it was personal for him.
Absolutely. And it wasn't just a feeling he had, it was backed up by some pretty serious research. There were studies under the Carnegie Foundation for the Advancement of Teaching, and later confirmed by the Carnegie Institute of Technology. They found something pretty startling. Even in really technical fields like engineering, maybe only 15% of someone's financial success comes from their technical know-how.
Only 15%. Wow, so what's the rest?
Yeah, a staggering 85% they attributed to what they termed human engineering, basically personality and the ability to lead people. And this just highlights how crucial these skills are, right? Not just for, CEOs, but for everyone. Housewives, architects, engineers, it's universal.
That 85% number, that's a real eye-opener, isn't it?
Yeah.
Kind of forces you to think differently about competence. But, okay, it wasn't just his personal experience or these foundation studies. There was a bigger gap, right, in adult education.
Exactly. There was a clear unmet need. The University of Chicago and the United YMCA schools did this huge survey. It took 2 years, cost $25,000 back then, which was a lot of money. They went across America, focused on Meriden, Connecticut as a sort of typical American town, interviewed pretty much every adult with 156 questions about their lives, their interests.
And what did people actually want to learn about?
Well, two main things came out on top. First was health, which makes sense, but second, people. Specifically, how to understand people, how to get along with them, how to make people like you, and, crucially, how to win others over to your way of thinking. But here's the thing. When the committee looked for a practical textbook for a course on this, they found nothing. Zero.
Nothing at all.
Nope. And outstanding authority on adult education at the time basically said the book these adults needed simply had never been written. And that was the direct trigger for Carnegie. He decided, well, he'd write it himself. He was filling this gaping void.
So he wasn't just writing another book, he was essentially creating the textbook people were asking for. And the preparation.
It sounds intense. He read everything.
Yeah, newspapers, magazines, court records, philosophers, psychologists.
Oh yeah, he devoured all that. But then he went even further. He hired a trained researcher. This researcher spent a year and a half just in libraries digging through, dense psychology books, hundreds of articles, countless biographies. They were specifically looking for how great leaders of all ages had dealt with people. So they read about everyone from Julius Caesar to Thomas Edison. Carnegie apparently read over 100 biographies just of Theodore Roosevelt. They were determined, he said, to spare no time, no expense to find every practical idea out there.
Wow, 100 bios of TR alone. And besides the library work, he talked to people directly too.
He did. He personally interviewed scores of successful people. We're talking famous inventors like Marconi and Edison, political leaders like Franklin D. Roosevelt, James Farley, business giants like Owen D. Young, even movie stars like Clark Gable and Mary Pickford, explorers like Martin Johnson. He wanted to get their techniques straight from the source.
Okay, so this incredible amount of research, reading, interviewing, it all fed into his courses, these laboratories of human relationships, as he called them. And the results were pretty dramatic, weren't they?
Astonishing, really. You hear these stories, like an employer turning 314 enemies into friends and seeing more profit, more leisure, and just more happiness, salespeople boosting their numbers significantly, executives getting promotions, sometimes even avoiding being demoted just by applying these principles.
There's that story too about the Harvard grad, the carpet factory owner.
Right. He said he learned more in 14 weeks from Carnegie's system than in 4 years of college. It really backs up what Professor William James said, that compared to what we ought to be, we are only half awake. We're only using a fraction of our potential. Carnegie's principles were designed to tap into those dormant and unused assets.
Okay, so let's dig into some of those foundational principles now. The first one, it feels like the hardest one sometimes. Don't criticize, condemn, or complain.
Yeah, it really pushes against our instincts, doesn't it? But it's based on a pretty solid observation about human nature. Carnegie said 99 times out of 100, people just don't criticize themselves for anything, no matter how wrong it may be. And criticism, well, think about B.F. Skinner's work on behaviorism. Skinner showed criticism is often futile. Why? Because it puts people immediately on the defensive.
They just dig in their heels and justify themselves.
Exactly. And Carnegie called it dangerous too, because it wounds pride, stirs up resentment, and that stuff can linger. Hans Selye, the stress researcher, put it nicely. As much as we thirst for approval, we dread condemnation. It's a deep-seated fear.
We see examples everywhere. That safety coordinator, Johnston, ordering workers to wear hard hats, just got sullen acceptance. But when he asked why they weren't wearing them, talked about safety. Boom. Compliance without the resentment.
It's about the approach. And think about historical figures. Theodore Roosevelt and President Taft had that famous falling out. Roosevelt's public criticism just made Taft defensive, made him strive to justify himself. It didn't help.
Lincoln is maybe the ultimate example of learning this lesson, though.
Oh, absolutely. Young Lincoln. He was known for publicly mocking his opponents. He nearly got into a duel over a satirical letter he wrote about James Shields. But that incident apparently taught him a huge lesson. Carnegie says Lincoln never again did he write an insulting letter. Never again did he ridicule anyone. From then on, he almost never criticized anybody for anything. Think about the Civil War. His generals made huge mistakes, repeatedly. But Lincoln, with malice toward none, with charity for all, largely held his tongue. He even wrote this furious letter to General Meade after Gettysburg.
But he never sent it.
He never sent it. He put it aside. That shows incredible restraint, choosing effectiveness over venting.
It's a massive lesson in self-control. And there are positive examples too, right? Like the GM executive, Kettering.
Yeah, Charles Kettering. A mechanic made a really costly mistake. Instead of tearing into him, Kettering said something like, "To show you I'm sure you'll never do this again, I want you to service my personal F-51 car tomorrow." That trust? That was the real lesson, not the criticism. And Confucius had a similar idea, didn't he? Don't complain about the snow on your neighbor's roof when your own doorstep is unclean. Look inward first.
Okay, so avoiding criticism is step one. That leads directly into the second principle, which is more proactive. Give honest and sincere appreciation.
Right. If the first principle is about removing a negative, this one is about adding a powerful positive. It taps into what William James called the deepest principle in human nature, that fundamental craving to be appreciated. Carnegie describes it as an annoying and unfaltering human hunger. This desire for a feeling of importance, that's a key thing separating us from animals.
And you see it everywhere, from small things to big ambitions.
Exactly. Carnegie mentions his own father being incredibly proud of winning ribbons for his hogs at the county fair. Or Lincoln teaching himself law from books he bought for 50 cents. That drive for significance pushes us. Carnegie even points out that some people, tragically, go insane to get it, retreating into fantasy worlds where they finally feel important, like that patient who thought she was English aristocracy.
That really drives home how deep this need goes.
Yeah.
And in the workplace. Charles Schwab is the classic example.
Oh, Schwab is perfect. Earning over $1 million a year back in 1921, that was an astronomical sum then, when maybe $50 a week was good money. And Andrew Carnegie wasn't paying him primarily for his steel knowledge. Schwab himself said his greatest asset was his ability to arouse enthusiasm in people. How? Through appreciation and encouragement. Schwab famously said he was anxious to praise but loath to find fault. He was hearty in your approbation and lavish in your praise.
Which is the polar opposite of how many managers operate, even today.
Sadly, yes. The average person, as Carnegie puts it, bawls out their subordinates for errors, but says nothing when things go right. Contrast that with John D. Rockefeller. His partner, Edward Bedford, lost the company $1 million on a bad venture in South America. Rockefeller didn't criticize. He actually congratulated Bedford for salvaging 60% of the investment. He found something positive to focus on.
And it applies in personal relationships too, that study about runaway wives.
Yeah, finding lack of appreciation as the main cause. And the story of the husband whose wife asked him to list 6 things he'd change about her. Instead, he sends her 6 red roses and a note saying, "I can't think of 6 things I would like to change about you. I love you the way you are." Immensely powerful. Even great performers need it. Alfred Lunt, the actor, said, "There is nothing I need so much as nourishment for my self-esteem."
It can even spark a career, like with Stevie Wonder.
Right. A teacher noticed his amazing hearing, asked him to help find a mouse in the classroom, appreciated that unique skill. That encouragement meant the world to him.
But there's a really important catch here, isn't there? It has to be honest and sincere, not just flattery.
Absolutely crucial distinction. Carnegie is very clear on this. Flattery is shallow, selfish, and insincere. He calls it counterfeit money. It might seem to work short term, but it causes trouble eventually. True appreciation, he says, comes from the heart out. It's unselfish. General Obregon's quote is right here. "Don't be afraid of enemies who attack you. Be afraid of the friends who flatter you." Carnegie suggests we spend, 95% of our time thinking about ourselves? If we consciously shift even a small part of that to thinking about the other person's good points, finding things we genuinely admire,
Then the appreciation will be authentic.
exactly, it becomes natural. It's the legal tender that all souls enjoy. You just have to look for it.
Okay, so principle 1, don't criticize. Principle 2, give sincere appreciation. Principle 3 gets into influence. Arouse in the other person an eager want.
Yes, and this one is all about perspective shifting. Carnegie's fishing analogy nails it. He says, "Personally, I am very fond of strawberries and cream, but I have found that for some strange reason, fish prefer worms." So when I went fishing, I didn't think about what I wanted, I thought about what they wanted. You bait the hook to suit the fish, not the fisherman.
It seems so obvious when you put it like that, but we miss it all the time. We focus on what we want. Emerson trying to get that calf into the barn.
Yeah.
Classic example. Pushing and pulling, arguing, total failure.
Right. But the Irish housemaid, she had what Carnegie called calf sense. She understood what the calf wanted. She put her finger in its mouth, mimicking nursing, appealed to that instinct, and just gently let it right in. It's about seeing it from their angle.
So how do we cultivate that calf sense or people sense?
It starts by genuinely trying to understand the other person's desires, their motivations, their problems. What do they want? Look at Andrew Carnegie, not Dale, the steel magnate. He wanted his nephews at Yale to write home more. Did he order them? No. He wrote them a chatty letter, then added a PS saying he was sending each of them a $5 bill. But then he forgot to actually enclose the cash.
Huh. And the replies came immediately, I bet.
By return mail, apparently. They wanted the money. That want motivated the action. Dale Carnegie used this himself. A hotel manager tried to triple the rent for his lecture hall. Instead of complaining about his own budget, he made a list of all the disadvantages to the hotel if he moved his lectures, lost publicity, fewer educated, cultured people coming through their doors. By focusing on what the manager stood to lose, what the manager wanted to avoid, he got the rent hike dropped from 300% down to just 50%.
That's brilliant. It's reframing the whole conversation around the other person's interests.
Exactly. It embodies what Henry Ford called the secret of success. The ability to get the other person's point of view and see things from that person's angle as well as from your own. Cool. You see the opposite fail all the time. Carnegie mentions letters from businesses just yapping about what his company wants, or a freight terminal complaining about their own problems instead of focusing on the customer's benefit. It just doesn't work.
But when you flip it,
Yeah.
like Barbara Henderson looking for a bank job in Phoenix.
Right. She didn't list what she wanted. She wrote to 12 banks explaining how I can help your bank meet its goals. Result, 11 interview offers. It's about them, not you. Or the Shell oil salesman, Mike Whidden. He helped a struggling gas station owner, not just by pushing oil, but by figuring out the owner really wanted to clean up his messy garage. Focusing on that unlocked the sales relationship. Even getting a kid to stop wetting the bed. Appeal to his wanting to wear pajamas like dad, wanting his own bed, wanting to be a little man.
It's about finding that internal motivator, that eager want in the other person.
Precisely. And it requires genuine empathy and often a bit of creative thinking to figure out what that want actually is.
So wrapping this up, we've looked at the fascinating origins of how to win friends and influence people, the research, the need it filled, and we've dug into 3 absolute cornerstones. Don't criticize, condemn, or complain. Give honest, sincere appreciation, and arouse in the other person an eager want.
Yeah, and it's crucial to remember Carnegie didn't see these as just, quick tricks. He called it a new way of life. He stressed it requires time and persistence and daily application. It reminds me of George Bernard Shaw's line, "If you teach a man anything, he will never learn." You have to do it. Practice these principles daily. Carnegie even suggested keeping a diary of your successes, your triumphs, and applying them to motivate yourself.
What really strikes me listening back is how much it all comes down to shifting your focus off yourself. Stop thinking about what you want to say, how you feel, what you need, and start genuinely trying to understand the other person.
That's spot on. Carnegie concludes that success in dealing with people depends on a sympathetic grasp of the other person's viewpoint. It's a fundamental shift from I to you. And maybe that's why, almost 100 years later, this stuff is still so incredibly relevant, maybe even more so today.
So here's something to chew on, our provocative thought for you. How often do you really genuinely pause and put yourself in the other person's shoes before you speak or act? Think about it. What incredible connections, what opportunities, what positive outcomes might you unlock if you consciously made that perspective shift your default setting every single day?